Hey, everybody.
Hey everybody, it's Scott from Save Our Shops Louisiana on the LA Biz SOS podcast. This is episode 19, Independence Through Ownership: Why Buying a Small Business is the New Path to Freedom. Uh, we're coming up on the 4th of July. This will be released a few days before, but I'm actually recording it more than a week prior because the 4th of July has always meant something important to me. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. And when you've worn that uniform, when you've felt the weight of what this country stands for, independence, I think, hits you in a different way. And it's not just fireworks and barbecue, it's not just a day off of work. It's a reminder of what people fought for and what we still have to protect. Every year, I spend weeks planning a 4th of July party. I'm talking spreadsheets, shopping lists, getting various fireworks timed down. I invite everybody, family, friends, neighbors, business associates, people I've worked with, people I've argued with, local politicians, folks I barely know, but have shown me good service, maybe people from my favorite diner, jewelry store, and that the door stays open. Because to me, that's what America is supposed to feel like, especially on this day, the 4th of July, a place where everyone belongs, everyone's welcome, and everyone gets a seat at the table. And the fireworks, I'm not going to lie, I have a tendency to go all out. And the show we put on, maybe one of the best in the neighborhood, maybe even a little bit better. Not because it's the biggest, but it is good size, and not because it's the loudest, but it is done with heart. And all the people who come, 100 plus people or so, it's my way of saying we're still here. We love this place, and we still believe in each other and the community. But here's the thing: as much as I love the 4th of July, as much as I love celebrating independence, I've realized something over the years. Most people don't feel independent anymore. They feel stuck. They feel trapped. They feel like their future's controlled by someone else. And that's why I started Save Our Shops Louisiana, because I believe ownership, real ownership, is the modern path to freedom. Now, when you own a small business, especially a service type business, everything can change. You decide your time, you decide your income, you decide your future. And in a world where everything feels uncertain, ownership is one of the last places where independence still lives. To me, independence isn't the absence of struggle, going to have those, but it is the presence of control. When you have control, when I have control. I didn't start SOS Louisiana because I wanted to build some big acquisition machine. I started it because I saw something happening across my community, our state, that broke my heart. I saw good businesses, businesses that built towns, fed families, held communities together, disappearing. And not because they failed, but because the owners had no one to pass it to. And I couldn't shake that feeling that if we didn't step up, if we didn't step in and do something, try and help save those shops, we'd lose even more businesses and lose more than just businesses. We'd lose a piece of who we are. Um, I got asked a couple of times what got you into the podcast, and I've tried to explain it a few times, I think, but I was volunteering for a community cleanup here in Shreveport, and there's a part of Shreveport I think about a lot. I can't even remember the name of the neighborhood. This was a couple of years ago, but you could tell it used to be full of life. That there were people walking in the streets, and the streets were built for that, and shopping and things of that nature. But today, it doesn't even have a gas station. I had to drive miles to find a gas station. Think about that. It was a once prosperous neighborhood in the city of Shreveport, in what was a once prosperous city. And now there are neighborhoods where you can't even buy a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, or a tank of gas. It's a food and store desert. That's not just a business problem, that's a freedom problem. When a community loses its businesses, it loses independence. It becomes dependent on another neighborhood, on another town, on other people, on other systems. And that's not the Louisiana or America that I believe in. And that's why I do this podcast, because stories save businesses. And people hear what's possible when they hear how ownership can change lives. And when they hear how a simple service business can rebuild a neighborhood, they start to believe they could be part of the solution. I don't want another part of Shreveport or any Louisiana town to become a desert. I want to see neighborhoods come back to life. And that starts with ownership. So here's the truth: buying a small business is one of the most powerful paths to independence left in America. And I don't hear enough people talking about it. It's financial freedom, and the numbers don't lie. The average small service business in America throws between 15 and 30% in net profit. So a well-run $1 million service business, that's $1 million in revenue, can pay the owner $200,000 to $300,000 a year, and that's not theory. That's not a unicorn. That's the norm. That's the average. And with SBA financing, most buyers only need 5 to 10% down. That means you can buy a business for $50 to $100,000 out of your pocket that pays you $200,000 per year. Now, of course, you have to pay the debt and things of that nature, but there's no job in America that gives you that kind of leverage. When you buy a business or I buy a business and we look to modernize it, when we put in digital booking, automated reviews, CRM, dispatching, subscription billing, and we talked all about this in last episode, episode 17, but you're not just improving operations, you're buying back your life. And stats support that. With online booking, you have the opportunity to grow 30 to 45% faster. With automated reviews, 3 to 10x more leads. Digital estimation, 50 to 70% faster approvals. Subscription billing, 20 to 50 higher lifetime value per customer. Now that's not just efficiency, that's freedom. When you buy a business, you're not just buying income, you're buying a legacy. S- Supporting stats like 70% of small business owners have no succession plan. Baby boomers own 40% of all small businesses. That's nationally. It's even a higher rate here in Louisiana. There are 12 million businesses out there that will change hands in the next decade, in the next 10 years. Every baby boomer in the United States is going to be 65 years old by 2030. That's 4 years from now. $10 trillion in assets will transfer from one generation to the next. And only 1 in 5 transitions succeed without help. You can be that help. I can be that help. We can be that help. And if we don't step up, those businesses don't get passed down, they disappear. And when a business disappears, a community loses that piece of itself. Generational succession is how we keep Louisiana's identity alive and going. It's how we keep wealth local. It's how we make sure our kids inherit opportunity and not empty buildings. But let me be clear: ownership isn't easy, freedom is never easy. When you buy a business, you inherit a legacy, a reputation, a workforce, a community's trust, and that's the responsibility that you have to honor. That is the stress on freedom. The rest of it that comes with it is real freedom. Now, small businesses employ 46% of the workforce in the US. And again, it's higher in Louisiana. It's somewhere near 52%, 54%. Again, earlier episodes talked about this, even have it posted on the website at soslouisiana.com. You can go there and check out the numbers, check out the blog posts that break these more in detail. But service businesses are the number one employer in many Louisiana parishes. And every small business job supports one and a half additional jobs within the community. When you keep a business alive, you keep families fed, you keep neighborhoods stable, and you keep opportunity local. This is real community impact. A town without business is a town without independence. We've already seen what happens when businesses disappear. You've seen main streets dry up, close up, board up, and parts of Shreveport, as I mentioned, have become food and store deserts, not because people stopped caring, but because ownership didn't transfer. Ownership no longer made sense to those from the outside looking in. But that's what happens when succession fails. This country was built by people who owned their labor, their craft, their shop, their future. Ownership is one of the most patriotic things that you can do, that we can do. It's how we protect freedom at the local level. And when we buy businesses, we're not just owners, we're stewards. We carry someone else's life work forward. We protect a piece of Louisiana's history. And if we do it right, we don't just build businesses, we rebuild a neighborhood, we rebuild opportunity, and we rebuild independence. So, even though I'm recording this early because I got a lot to do to plan for this party and a lot of people coming in, even from out of town, leading up to the 4th of July. But on this 4th of July, while the fireworks are lighting up the sky, while the kids are running around with sparklers and the neighborhood gathers, half of them in my yard, like they do, uh, I want you to think about independence in a new way, not just as a country, not just as a holiday, but as a personal mission. Independence through ownership, independence through opportunity, independence through rebuilding the places that we love. That's why I started Save Our Shops Louisiana, and that's why I do this podcast. And this is why I believe the future of our state depends on people willing to step up and own the businesses that keep our communities alive. So happy 4th of July. Here's to independence, Louisiana style. Make sure you share this story with a business owner who may be ready to take that next generational step. Happy 4th of July, everybody. We'll see you next week.